Hello everyone, welcome to the video. In this video, we'll be talking about Fable remoting. Alright, so this video is going to be pretty cool. We're going to be talking about how to communicate from the client side to the server side. And we use a library called Fable remoting. So in F#, you can obviously do the old-fashioned way and do HTTP calls with the JavaScript fetch API. Or you can, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat in this region. But one preferred way in the F# community to communicate with a client to a server is with Fable remoting. So what it is a library that allows you to define F# based code and to define APIs, basically. It provides a convenient way for clients to call backends, and also offers a convenient way for backends to define contracts on how to access a resource on the backend, basically. That sounds overly complicated. Basically, it's a form of remote procedure call, so that's RPC. And that is a strategy to basically have a library where you are calling a method on your client, and it looks much like a normal method, but actually it's calling a method somewhere else in another process, or maybe even on another computer in our case. And that's called a remote procedure call. And that strategy is used, that's basically the premise of Fable remoting, is to use that strategy to develop software. And it offers a lot of convenient things for us. So basically, for instance, it serializes and deserializes the payload automatically. So any content you need to send as a parameter will be serialized and will be deserialized on the backend. So the backend can do whatever it has to do with F#, like normal F# objects. And conversely, when the backend returns data to the front end, the data behind the scenes with Fable remoting will be serialized by Fable remoting and sent over HTTP as a response to the request, which is HTTP as well. And the response on the front end will be deserialized for you, and you'll receive an F# object, and all of that is very transparent to you, or it's not transparent to you, it's all like in a box for you. So it's very, very interesting, very fluent. The experience is very great to develop. There's obviously some downsides to this, and it sounds downsides being like, you don't have full control of your serialization, or it's not exactly, you're not managing it as well. I believe there's many options in Fable remoting to configure that, but you're not going to have as much control as a plain old HTTP endpoint, right? And that's kind of the point that it's trying to solve. Is you're trying to solve the concerns with this library. So let's say, and I think I talked about this in the video, but let's say you have an API and you don't know who's going to call you, right? You're just some open API provided by Google or whatever. Maybe Fable remoting is not the good option here, because you'll need to manage a lot more concerns than just if you know exactly who's calling your resources and stuff like that. So that's one downside. The other downside is how the by default how the API endpoints are formatted. Well, it's not exactly like canonical, if you will, or it's not exactly like doesn't follow the practices of REST APIs normally. But you can probably do it. You could probably implement it that way if you really wanted to. But for our purposes, and for many purposes, that's not going to be a big problem. And there's also another, it doesn't use get methods really often. It uses post under the scenes or behind the scenes. And so that's another thing. You can't use default delete or other verbs, HTTP verbs by default. But is that really a problem? That's the thing you have to ask yourself. And if it is a problem, you can always also do normal HTTP calls. So it's not really a problem at all. It just solves a lot of problems basically, and makes it really easy to use call your backend from your front end. And plus there's even utilities, so you can use .NET Fable remoting to test your backend. So you can provide a proxy, you can build a client based on just plain old .NET. You don't have to be running it in Fable. So that's also a great way to do component tests on a backend system. So just so many things are cool with this library, and I had a really good time filming this. There's a lot of information out there. I go really slowly, take you by the hand. So I think you'll appreciate this episode. If you're liking the content from the StonkWatch and everything, leaving a like really helps me out. Commenting also really helps the algorithm out. So thanks, man. Thanks for that. And yeah, without further ado, let's go into it. All right, so let's integrate Fable remoting to put our data on the server side, so it gets called by the client and returned by the server. And so that's going to be the next step in the evolution of our software. So let's look at that. So I'm going to full screen this for now because we're going to not really look at the server side for now for a little bit, or the application itself. So the first thing we need is we need to move these two types. So the types need to be shared between the client and the server. So this is going to go to the shared project. So we're going to do that, boom. We'll have to change the namespace. So it's shared.types. We can probably, add another namespace if we wanted to, like shared.portfolio or something. Or eventually we'll split these up into their own files and sectors, because like you can see, like price is going to have to do with the stocks and a lot of things, but portfolio is only going to apply to the portfolios. So, these will go in different places, but for now we're not going to worry about that. Okay, and the next thing we need to do is the seed data. So this is the data that we want to have our server send to the client, is going to go on the server side, because this in theory is just some default data for now. We might copy it for tests, so that's one thing we might do, because if you want our tests to pass all the time, like I don't even believe our tests are passing right now because of what we did in the last episode. So that's actually something we can do now. So I'm going to copy this file, and I'm going to put it into the I put it in client tests, but in reality it should really be in shared tests. So let's put it there. So in shared tests, we're going to add a file. We're going to call it test data for now. And actually, you know what? You can even argue not to do this. So I'm actually going to delete this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the test that we have here, this P&L test, and we can remove this. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to put it into the shared tests. And so shared seed data, this is unavailable for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the data over here. So this, I'm just going to copy it in the test itself. So what that's going to do is, and it's kind of small. And so what that's going to do is, one sec here, open calculate position. So I don't actually need this portfolio. I just need the position, and I need to import the tests. I'll do that in a second. So what that's going to do is, if I change my seed data, it's not going to break the test. So that's kind of like a good thing. We definitely don't want to break tests all the time. So that's basically what I should have done initially. Okay, and now everything's breaking, but that's fine. So the types are in shared.types. So if I go back here and I do open shared.types, this should compile. Position, I just need to rename this. Cool. So we'll check that later if it still works. And the seed data, actually, yeah, I'm not going to, I'm going to keep it like this, and then I'll move it to the server. And so here I can open shared.types. That's good. We're going to rename this. We're going to do server.seedData. So here we have our server. Yeah, this is fine. Here we don't even need this. There's no tests on the client side. And our shared types, this works cool. Great. And if we go back to our app, everything should break. And let's fix that. We need to open up the shared namespace, so no more client. It's going to be shared.types. And we only have one error here, which says see data portfolio. So that's the thing we're actually going to change. And yeah, so this is going to break for now, but that's fine. Cool. So let's go ahead and actually integrate Fable remoting. And so let's open up the documentation for Fable remoting. So this is basically how it works. One sec. So the first thing we're going to do is well, that's after we integrate the package itself. We're going to integrate the package itself first. So actually, let's do that first instead of talking about it. And so for ASP.NET Core middleware, that's actually what we're going to be using because we're using Falco. And it has specific handlers for Giraffe and Saturn. And for just any .NET thing. Well, these are clients, so it's not the same thing. But yeah, we can just use ASP.NET Core middleware for this. And so we need to add a package, Fable Morning ASP.NET. But what you'll find is in the safe stack, and yeah, of course, there's a bunch of errors. In the safe stack, the package is already there because it comes with the standard template. And so if we open up the dependencies here, or actually open up here. So if I open up the dependencies, I have Fable remoting pre-release here. And that's actually not what we want. What we want is ASP.NET Core. So ASP.NET Core, I believe, is the name of the package. I'll just go back and check. ASP.NET Core, that's good. And I'll keep pre-release here. I'm not sure if it will work with the normal version. I'm assuming probably, but I'm not sure. So I'll keep it like that. And I no longer need Saturn. So I'm going to just remove Saturn. Boom. Okay, and if I go to my references, so I could do it with the packet CLI, or I can just edit the files. So I'm just editing the files for now. And if I go, this is client, and if I go server packet references, I can just change ASP.NET Core. I'm going to remove Saturn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do packet.NET packet install to install the dependencies I just changed. So it's going to download a bunch of stuff. It's fine. And if I go to my thingy here, go look, I renamed some files. Let's look at the dependencies. Okay, let's look at the log file. So remoting server, this looks fine. I remove Fable remoting. There's a bunch of versions I changed here, that's fine. I removed a bunch of stuff I didn't need, that's also great. I added some ASP.NET Core stuff. I removed a bunch of stuff I didn't need apparently, so that's great. Identity model, that's probably some Giraffe dependencies I didn't need. And apply, not using that. Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff I didn't need. So that's great. Yeah. So let's work with that. So if I go back to my server now, so I basically added the package. I haven't done any code changes. So let's whoa. All right, yeah. So if you change your packages, the IDE is going to have a little bit of headache initially, but if you wait it out, it should be fine. You can also close your IDE and open it up. I'm using Writer, so sometimes it happens, but normally it just does exactly what it did. It initially freaks out, then it regenerates its indices and stuff like that, so should be fine. Cool. So at this point, we're kind of ready to create a remoting thingy. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to start here. What I'm going to start is in the shared file. So in the shared file, we already defined an API. So this is what an API looks like. I'll open up the documentation. So if we go up here, it is pretty well documented, to be honest. So always refer to documentation for frameworks like this. So the first thing is we need to define an API between the server and the client. So this is how the server is going to call methods on the server side. And all the serialization, deserialization, and stuff like that is abstracted from you, so you don't have to deal with that. So it's really great. That's kind of a really cool thing that's available to us. So thanks, Zaid. We can just start from there, and you notice it's not an interface. It's just a record type with a method. So that's something to keep in mind. So if we start our iPortfolio API, what we can just do is do type portfolio or iPortfolio API, and it's going to be a record, and I think it's going to only have one method for now. And it's going to have the get portfolio method, and it's going to be a type. I pass it unit, and it'll return to me an async of portfolio, and it'll open up shared types here. So that's great, cool. That's basically our API. Implementing the interface on the server. So if we go on the server, so this was the shared project, so it needs to be available to the client and the server. That's the shared project. And we go in our server. The next thing we need to do is need to implement this. So that's why I left it commented out, just to give us a good idea. So I can come here and I can do let's portfolio API is equal to, and it's going to be get portfolio, and that's going to be equal a function that takes unit, so it takes nothing, as we previously shown. So it takes nothing, and in return, it returns an async of portfolio. So this is where we can actually call our seed data, and we probably can't call it because, no, we should be able to call it module server seed data dot. This is not working. If I do portfolio, you have to really like, I would have to return, yes. Okay, now it says I don't need this anymore. If I remove this, oh, because, oh, the namespace, this is module, oh, I see. So the issue is it can't, so I actually have to open server here because I'm in a module. Yeah, that's the issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do server dot server is bad. Let's do server dot host. So this is kind of the hosting file. Should not depend on anything. So if I do open server here, I'm already in server, that's fine. So if I do seed data, it should work, cool. So yeah, the issue is seed data is in a namespace called server, and I was in module server, but I was not in the server namespace. And so if I'm in the same namespace, then I can use it like that. Otherwise, I had to add server dot beforehand, and I just don't want that. So that's why I had to do that. Cool. So now we have our API that returns us the portfolio. So that's great. So it's not like dynamic. It doesn't call the Questrade API for now. But that's fine. We'll get to that eventually. I can remove this stuff. So I don't need this example anymore. The next thing we need to do is we need to create a web app. So basically with the remoting, the Fable remoting library, we're creating an API. We're giving it a router builder. So a router builder is basically this, which is given the type of the API and the method name, what API endpoint should you poke to call that resource on the server side. So it's basically a serializing based on the API type, what will be the route to call on your server side, because basically like we shown here, we use like these routes. So in this case, when I do /API/, I had the hello world, but we're not going to use this mechanism for the Fable remoting. We're going to use the Fable remoting routing kind of capability. And so it needs to translate this type and each method in this type to an API endpoint. and this is the method that it uses. So by default, it's /API/ the type name and the method name. And so that still works for us. And you notice the /API is because, like I mentioned in the last video, or 2 videos ago, in the Falco video, basically, that there is the API redirect in the Webpack dev server. So that's why it needs that. Okay. And from value, we're just pass it the to-do API, and we don't need this last one because we're not in Saturn. So it should be just like this. So if I uncomment this, and I probably need some thingies here. I just need to open up remoting server probably, and create API, yeah. Cool, this works, and then I need to pass it the portfolio API. And it says value restriction has been inferred to use generic type. There's probably something else I need to do for ASP.NET. So for now, I just gave it a generic type annotation to keep it happy. We'll see if I add it to the configure app, if it resolves itself or not. Okay, so here I should just be able to do .use remoting. And of course it's not there. I just have to check if I have the correct thingy. Use remoting and configure app on the application builder. So I'm probably just missing a namespace. Let's do Fable remoting .ASP.NET Core. And if I pass it, what's it called? Web app. And I'll give it this. And of course, this returns unit. Okay, so it does not return, it's not a typical builder basically. So I'll put it on another line. Use Falco with this return application builder. And so I'll put it after Falco here, .use remoting. And if I pass it web app. So this works. I think this method should actually return the application builder. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. And here, I can actually remove this now because the type inference has inferred that the context is a HTTP context, and so it didn't. So it helps this invocation helps set the type of the web app, because before that it didn't know what this type was, and so I had to add a generic type, but now it can be resolved, so it's happy, so that's fine. Cool. Yeah, this should probably work. And so we have to implement the what's it called, the server side now. But one thing we can do is we can test it out beforehand. So like I said, in the shared, this is the API we use to get the resource. So one thing we can test is in the browser, if we pass iPortfolio API here and get portfolio, and it has to be case sensitive, which kind of sucks. There's probably a mechanism I don't know in Fable remoting to check the string to be case insensitive, but I'm not going to do research for now. I'm just going to do the hard way. And so if I do this and I do /API /iPortfolio API, and I do the name of the method, which is get portfolio, it doesn't work. Great. One sec. Server refused the connection. Let's see. Oh, the thing is not running. That's great. Okay, so let's go back. Oh yeah, we probably didn't solve a lot of issues on the client side. So the app and seed data, if I go in appfs, we had this problem here. Let's just do nothing for now. And it probably can't infer. This only wants a portfolio, right? Meep. So let's just do, let's just comment this part out just for now. Compiles everything. This actually probably works now. Boom. So here we get a JSON of all the things. So that's cool. And one thing you'll notice is I have no idea how it's serializing and deserializing. All that is handled by Fable remoting, and as I probably explained in my intro, because I haven't filmed my intro yet, the serialization. So if all your calls are going by Fable remoting, the serialization and deserialization doesn't really matter if you're not going to use it as an API directly. If you're only going to use it with the Fable remoting utility, then that doesn't really matter. The endpoints don't really matter. The importance is that both people can communicate, and like the client can communicate to the server. But in a context where you have no idea if the client is going to use Fable remoting, then using traditional endpoints might be a better idea, and having a stronger level of control over how your code is being serialized and deserialized. It's probably a good idea. Just because these endpoints are kind of funky. Like ideally, if I really wanted to, if I was making an API, I would want the route to be like, you know, portfolio, and then I just have like my get method on the standard thing. It would just be the portfolio, or maybe if there was multiple portfolios, you'd put the ID here, something like that. So that's how I would architect that API endpoint. But you know, in our case, it doesn't really matter, so that's fine. Cool. So now we need to implement the client side, which we haven't done. We commented it out like a dirty person. App.fs. So the first thing we need is we need to build a proxy. So let's look at the documentation. And so Fable client. So we need Fable remoting client in the client project. We probably have that already because stack is awesome. And I just go here. Why am I doing this like that? I can just go here. Fable remoting client is already there. Don't have to do anything. That's also great. Reference the shared types in your client project. We reference the types via dependencies. I would presume projects shared is there, as you see. Cool. So that step is done. Start using the library. So the first thing you need is you create an API and you build a proxy. So build proxy is the method you use to create a proxy. So what proxy means is you have something that represents something else, something. So it's a kind of a client that represents a resource somewhere else is what a proxy is. And the word proxies, it kind of has the same meaning in everywhere you use proxies. Like, you know, a proxy metric is a metric or metrics to represent a underlying thing that is not exactly that thing. Anyway, so yeah, proxy in this context can be used as client. So yeah, cool. And so if we go on the app.fs, and I'll just keep this there so you can follow along. So I probably have too many things in my app.fs, so eventually I'll split things up, but for now we'll just keep it like that. And so I'm going to do this here. So my let portfolio API is equal to remoting dot create API. Then I do remoting dot build proxy, and the proxy is going to be of type iPortfolio API. Cool. And so now that I have that, I can go ahead and use it. I'm probably not going to use it like this. I'm probably going to use it in a very Elmish way. So here, this message, instead of doing async sleep, what I actually want to do is, I would probably want to do let bang is equal to, and how do I call my proxy? I call it portfolio API. So let portfolio portfolio is equal to portfolio API dot get portfolio async. Now I have a portfolio, so I just return it here. Boom, and then I can use this message. So this returns me an async message. And basically how I want to do that is command dot of async dot result message. So this should work. Oh, and it doesn't work because we forgot. So you see here the API is trying to call. It's not the correct one. So we were following the documentation a bit too closely, and we forgot to add the with router call. So remoting dot with router builder, and if I don't know how it's called, route dot builder. Cool. So if we go back here, boom, it works. Did I not change this? Oh, I guess I forgot to, in last video I fixed this problem, but I guess I'm not on the correct branch or something, I don't know. So this should render correctly now, boom, okay, good. Whew. Man, I was wondering. Awesome. So now this is getting fetched from the server side, and to illustrate that even more, what we can do is we can go back in our host and we can add a delay here if you want. Obviously this is not what you're going to do in real life, but do async dot sleep. And if I, so it's going to update the server. One sec, this takes a, oh, it's already ready, great. So if I refresh, boom, I get my thingy. So you notice the prices are different because I changed the portfolio data a while back. I don't remember when. So where's the seed data? Here's the seed data, so it's here. So this is exactly the price we're getting, GME. And this P&L is getting calculated on the fly. That's something we added previously. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's basically what we did, and that's how you integrate Fable running into your project. So I'll send it out to the outro. All right, hopefully you enjoyed that. Really cool episode. And yeah, so if you're enjoying the content, leaving a like, leaving a comment really helps me out. It helps the channel out a lot. And subscribe for more videos. In next video, what will we be doing in next video? I forgot. Oh yeah, in next video we'll be starting to work on the Questrade API. So we'll actually be doing other cool stuff. Might not be totally F# specific, but eventually we're gonna be scripting out and doing like a little proof of concept to call the Questrade API and having a little library in place, or creating a little library as an API client to Questrade. So that's one thing we're going to be doing in the few next videos. So you can expect a few next videos to be based on that in the F# scripting environment. So it's going to be really cool. And yeah, so make sure you subscribe to that. And if you or your team need any help with F# projects, you can contact me. I do freelance F# software development and consulting. So if you want to contact me, you can check out my website down below. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that next video. Peace!